might be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, the majority of my rookie drafts are complete, and I kind of see some trends that I've noticed with my own teams, and I'm going to discuss those and why I think that these trends exist. But before, I just have to apologize. I am sorry with the lack of quality. I'm sorry that that face cam is still not on. Hopefully my laptop is fixed relatively soon. It should be. But until then, we're just going to have to continue going with the picture overlays. Like I said in a couple of videos ago, doesn't really matter though, because the audio is really the only thing important when it comes to the podcast. But now let's jump into it. Let's talk about my number one most owned rookie. And y'all are going to be surprised when y'all hear this, but it's actually KJ Hamler. And if you don't know about KJ Hamler, he went to Penn State. He was actually drafted in the second round by the Denver Broncos. And this is why I think he's my most owned rookie. I'm consistently getting him in the middle of the third round of my Dynasty rookie drafts. Keep in mind, I do play in all Superflex leagues, so I believe if you played in a one quarterback league, he would possibly be going at the end of the second round of your rookie draft. But we're looking at a player who was a second round caliber NFL talent slipping to the very end of your second round of rookie drafts, possibly going in the third round. This is just a value that you cannot pass up on. I'm going to get into why. And if you make this bet historically, it's definitely profitable and it's definitely plus EV. So with KJ Hamler, what is impressive about his profile is mainly the speed. That's what got him drafted so highly at the NFL level, is mainly because he's going to be able to make a day one impact and really open up the NFL offense for his own team. And yes, I'm going to acknowledge a lot of players that got drafted in the NFL draft after him are definitely going to be better fantasy assets and definitely going to be better dynasty long-term plays. But at the same time, it does not necessarily matter because most players that got drafted behind KJ Hamler are actually going ahead of him if they got drafted in the top 4 rounds. So we look at KJ Hamler and we look at his speed. The one problem with this, and I think this is why dynasty owners are a little bit lower on him than we should be, is he does not have a confirmed 40 time. At the NFL Combine, he was actually dealing with a hamstring injury, so he was not able to participate in any of the drills besides the bench press. And obviously, the bench press does not really matter for the type of player KJ Hamler is. And we were hoping to see him at his pro day, but obviously the off-season struggles with the coronavirus did not allow that to happen. So he's kind of a black box prospect. I just watched a report saying that what KJ Hamler and his agent actually did to get NFL teams his speed is they went through, got the next gen stats on his fastest times on the field at Penn State, and went through and sent those times to the NFL teams, and that's how they were able to evaluate him. I could not find these exact readings. I'm sure if you go and look, you may be able to, but I did find a quote from his trainer who trains multiple NFL prospects coming into the league. I mean, that's his job, and his quote was, "He's the fastest player I've seen since Deshaun Jackson." So obviously we don't necessarily care what the official number is, but we just have to understand that KJ Hamler may not have been faster than Henry Ruggs, but after Henry Ruggs, I don't know if there's a player that had that kind of speed in this NFL draft. And also with KJ Hamler, Scott brought this point up to me. He's only 20 years old. I listened to Scott's podcast, I believe it was Dynasty and Chill, and he made the point that KJ Hamler was actually the youngest NFL wide receiver drafted in this draft class. And what's significant about that is if KJ Hamler hits, if he shows that he's efficient in Denver, his dynasty value will skyrocket after year one because people are going to look at his overall profile and put him in a tier of players that really profile to be consistent contributors the rest of their career. But he's only 5'11", 178 pounds. That's where a lot of the concern comes from for most people. People think he's a little undersized, and that's fair to say. But at the same time, with a burner like KJ Hamler, I'm not necessarily too concerned about the size showed at the next level. I think that he's still going to be able to take the top off defenses and still going to be able to break off long runs. Now, let's look at what he did at Penn State in his freshman year. Is going there, he actually redshirted. So we only got to see him play 2 seasons, his redshirt freshman season. He averaged 3.2 receptions a game and 58 yards a game. So nothing too special, but you can still see that he was extremely efficient with the targets that he got and with the receptions that he got. In his redshirt sophomore season, he was able to improve in both receptions and yards, which is something that we always love to see. We want to see improvement from year to year to show that the player is developing. His redshirt sophomore season, he recorded 4.3 receptions and 70 yards a game. Now, why I'm not too concerned about the Denver landing spot for KJ Hamler is because the kind of profile of a wide receiver he is, it did not matter what team he went to, he was not going to command a significant amount of targets. He has the slight body frame, and he operates in the area of the field where really not that many targets go towards. We know the majority of NFL passes are within 10 to 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. KJ Hamler is going to be operating where the safeties are on the field, and really the quarterback, Drew Lock, is going to be having to take long shots to KJ Hamler, which we can expect a couple times a game, but not consistently. And this does not necessarily matter who else is on the field, because KJ Hamler is not necessarily going to be the first option, regardless of what other wide receivers are operating in the other roles of the offense, just because of the kind of wide receiver KJ Hamler is. But if the safety does not change over to provide help coverage on KJ Hamler running down the field, he's going to be able to burn the cornerback, and with the few targets that he does see, he is going to be able to make explosive plays come from them, and really he does not need that many targets to be successful. So I'm not too worried about the landing spot in Denver. If people are really going to move him down their rankings, I'm going to continue to draft him in the middle of the third round of my Dynasty rookie drafts and kind of print money. But now let's talk about another player that I own in pretty much almost every single Dynasty league, and this is another second round NFL wide receiver that you can get at the very beginning of the third round of your rookie draft in Superflex leagues. And your one quarterback leagues, he's obviously going to be going in the second round, but this is Chase Claypool. Now, first off, let me address what everyone is saying with Chase Claypool, which is he should change to tight end. In my opinion, not true. I think people are just liking to say that because it sounds cool and they sound like they know what they're talking about. But I'm telling you right now, if Chase Claypool's agent thought he would be more successful at tight end, Chase Claypool would have been given the tight end designation, and he would have ran with the tight ends not only in the pre-draft process, but we would have seen Pittsburgh reference the tight end position while talking about Chase Claypool, like we've seen with Antonio Gibson in Washington. But Chase Claypool is going to be an NFL wide receiver, and I believe that he's going to be a fantastic NFL wide receiver for multiple reasons. If we look at his overall draft profile, Chase Claypool was taken right in the middle of the second round, ahead of some wide receivers that most of Dynasty Twitter and the Dynasty community are very high on, like a Denzel Mims. But Chase Claypool was selected at the 2.17. He's about to turn 22 years old, and what's really the main story behind Chase Claypool is he's 6'4", 238 pounds, and ran a 4.42 40-yard dash. Now, I know a 4.42 40-yard dash is impressive, but if you take into account the size that Chase Claypool has, this puts him in the 99th percentile in terms of size-adjusted athleticism, which is something that just pops off the charts. And really, we don't see this kind of size-adjusted athleticism at the wide receiver position with a combination of production throughout the wide receiver's career. But if we look at Notre Dame and we look at what Chase Claypool was able to accomplish in his college career, it was actually quite impressive. His freshman season, he did not do anything. I barely got on the field, barely got targeted. But his second year, he made the leap. He went to a little over 2.5 receptions a game and almost 40 yards a game. His third season, he almost hit 4 receptions a game and about 50 yards a game. His final season at Notre Dame, he continues to improve, which is what we want to see. We want to see these wide receivers be able to improve year over year. In his last season, he logs in over 5 receptions a game and about 80 yards a game. Now, this improvement from Chase Claypool from year to year shows that he is improving at the wide receiver position, a position that doesn't necessarily just rely on athleticism, kind of like the running back position at the NFL level, but really athleticism is just something that can elevate the talent that the wide receiver has for his given position. And Chase Claypool obviously will have this ceiling at the NFL level due to his size-adjusted athleticism. He just has to be able to put it together with his on-field talent. And one more point why I'm going out and feeling confident in drafting Chase Claypool at the end of the second round and the beginning of the third round of most of my Dynasty rookie drafts is the recent history that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had on drafting wide receivers. It's kind of funny. No team has been better than Pittsburgh at identifying these wide receivers at the NFL draft, or maybe even just developing in them. It's hard to know why these Pittsburgh wide receivers continue to impress and continue to beat expectations. Maybe it's because the trainers they have there. Maybe it's because of their scouting department. But let's look at the recent history of the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver drafts. And starting from the most recent, 2019, they select Deante Johnson with the 66th overall pick. Deante Johnson was someone that was really on nobody's radar. And as soon as that pick came in, most people in the Dynasty community were extremely surprised and not willing to move him up their rankings high enough due to the most recent pinpoint that we had. But 2018, a player that actually a lot of people liked but fell down in the draft and Pittsburgh got him at a value, was James Washington with the 60th overall pick. Obviously, James Washington has not been a massive NFL success up to this point in his career, but we are only 2 years in and he has definitely flashed and has played a role on this Pittsburgh offense. Now in 2017, we see them select Juju Smith-Schuster with the 62nd overall pick. Obviously a smash pick, one of the best picks of that 2017 draft. Now in 2014, we see them take Martavis Bryant with the 118th pick at the NFL level. And obviously Martavis Bryant did not play out as we expected him to, but we definitely know that the talent was there. It was just the off the field concerns which led to Martavis Bryant's downfall. Now 2009, obviously these data points are so far back, they're not that relevant, but I believe they are worth mentioning in this discussion. Emmanuel Sanders with the 82nd overall pick, Antonio Brown with the 195th overall pick in 2009, Mike Wallace with the 84th overall pick. So Pittsburgh has shown the ability to not only identify these players in the draft, but develop them at the NFL level. And if any wide receiver has the ceiling after they're developed at the NFL level, it is going to be Chase Claypool. So I'm going to be willing to go out there and invest in him in my Dynasty rookie drafts. But thanks so much, guys. Really hope you all enjoyed the video. Really hope you all got something from it. As always, if you did, subscribe and leave a comment with the rookies that you find yourself owning the most of in Dynasty. Thanks.